The distress call. The crystalline orbital cities of Caelor Prime reflected the light of their binary suns, casting prismatic rainbows across the planet's azure atmosphere. For 6,000 cycles, the Caelorian confluence had flourished as a beacon of art, philosophy, and scientific advancement. Their civilization spanned 18 star systems, with billions of citizens living in harmony among the stars. Ambassador Talon stood before the Grand Council, his luminescent skin flickering with stress patterns of deep indigo and ashen gray. His elongated fingers trembled as he manipulated the holographic display, revealing real-time footage from the outer colony of Nevax. "The settlement on Nevax has gone dark," Talon reported, his melodic voice cracking. "The last transmission indicates complete structural failure of their defense grid. This marks the 5th colony we've lost in 16 rotations." High Consul Verana, eldest of the Caelorian leadership, rose from her crystalline throne. Her normally brilliant cobalt skin had dulled to a muted blue, a physiological response to the mounting dread. "Show us the final moments," she commanded. The hologram expanded, revealing a chaotic scene. Thousands of obsidian shapes descended upon Nevax's gleaming spires. The Void Harvesters. Each one resembled a segmented, skeletal hand with too many fingers, moving with unnatural precision. Where they touched Caelorian structures, matter simply ceased to exist, harvested down to its quantum components. "Our weapons had no effect," Talon continued. "The colony's Guardian fleet was completely neutralized before they could even establish defensive formations." "And our diplomatic envoys?" asked Verana, though she already suspected the answer. "Consumed, along with their vessels. The Harvesters do not respond to communication attempts. They do not negotiate. They do not appear to recognize us as sentient beings." The council chamber fell silent. The Caelorians had encountered numerous species in their long history, some hostile, but none like this. The Void Harvesters had appeared from the dark space between spiral arms 3 months ago, and since then had methodically begun dismantling Caelorian civilization piece by piece. "The Galactic Concord must respond to our petition," said Councillor Zarin, his voice tinged with desperate hope. "Our contributions to the Concord have been substantial. Surely our allies will not abandon us." Talon's skin darkened further. "The Concord has enacted Isolation Protocol Alpha. They've withdrawn their representatives and established a quarantine zone around our territories. They fear drawing the Harvesters' attention to their own worlds." More silence. The betrayal was unexpected, but not incomprehensible. Fear was a powerful motivator, even among supposedly advanced civilizations. "Then we stand alone," Verana concluded. "How long until the Harvesters reach Caelor Prime?" "At current velocities, 14 standard rotations," Talon replied. "Our remaining defense forces can perhaps delay them for another 2, but the outcome is inevitable." Councillor Ixora, who had remained silent until now, leaned forward. She was younger than the others, her skin still vibrant with the patterns of innovation and creativity. "There is one option we have not considered," she said. "There is one species not bound by the Concord's protocols, a species we have observed but avoided official contact with." "You cannot be referring to the humans," Zarin scoffed. "They are barely spacefaring. Their technology is primitive compared to ours." "Primitive, yes," Ixora agreed, "but also different. Our observational data indicates they evolved along a unique technological path. Their development has been shaped by conflict in ways ours was not." "You mean they are violent?" Verana said. It wasn't a question. "They have spent more time at war than at peace," Ixora confirmed. "But they have also shown remarkable capacity for cooperation, sacrifice, and ingenuity when faced with existential threats, and they have developed weapon systems that operate on principles our scientists still struggle to comprehend." "You suggest we ask primitives to fight our battles?" Zarin was incredulous. "I suggest we ask for help from a species that might view the problem differently," Ixora countered. The harvesters have consistently predicted and countered our defense strategies. Perhaps what we need is unpredictability. Verana studied the holographic display, showing the harvesters' projected path toward their homeworld. The Xilorians had achieved peace through diplomacy, art, and scientific advancement. Their weapons were designed to disable rather than destroy. The brutality of the Void Harvesters had left them paralyzed, unable to comprehend, let alone counter, such relentless efficiency. Can we even reach them? Verana asked finally. Earth is far from our territories. We've been monitoring their communication systems, Ixera explained. Our deep space relays can send a quantum-encoded message directly to their global communications network. But High Consul, there is something else you should know about humans. Go on. They are unpredictable. Our sociological models cannot reliably anticipate their reactions. They might help us. They might ignore us. They might do something completely unexpected. Verana gazed once more at the holographic visualization of their dying worlds and made her decision. Send the message, she ordered. We have nothing left to lose. The transmission was designed to be unmistakable. A detailed account of the Xilorian civilization, the Void Harvesters' attacks, and a desperate plea for assistance, embedded with coordinates, tactical data, and first contact protocols. It was sent not to human governments or scientific bodies, but directly to their United Military Command, an entity called the United Earth Defense Force. For 3 rotations, there was no response. The Council continued evacuation efforts, knowing they were futile. The majority of their 17 billion citizens could not possibly be relocated before the harvesters arrived. Their remaining defense ships established a perimeter around Xilor Prime, prepared for a last stand that everyone knew would be brief and one-sided. Talon was in the Planetary Defense Center when the first response came. It was text-only, brief and direct in a way that would ordinarily be considered shockingly blunt in Xilorian culture. Mias sag oricivd, coordinates co-nfirmidu. Hold position. Assistance inbound. Inbound from where? Zarin demanded when the message was relayed to the Council. Their fastest ships would take years to reach us, even if they left immediately. Before anyone could respond, the sensor arrays detected an anomaly at the edge of the system, a massive distortion in space-time that defied known physics. It appeared to be some kind of artificial wormhole, but unlike any technology the Xilorians or the Concord had ever developed. And through this impossible tear in reality came ships, not the elegant crystalline vessels of Xilorian design, but angular, asymmetrical constructs bristling with what could only be weapon systems. They moved with alarming speed, immediately forming tactical arrangements that spoke of extensive combat experience. Count 73 vessels and rising, reported a stunned sensor operator. The portal remains active. Are they human? Verana asked, hardly believing what she was seeing. Confirmed, said Talon, studying incoming data. The lead vessel is broadcasting identity as UESS Thermopylae, flagship of the United Earth Defense Force, Admiral Zhao commanding. The Void Harvester fleet, detecting the new arrivals, diverted from its approach to Xilor Prime. The machine intelligence governing the harvesters calculated the optimal attack vector based on their superior numbers and previously demonstrated technological advantages. It was the first miscalculation the harvesters had made since they appeared. The human vessels didn't attempt to evade or establish defensive positions. They accelerated directly toward the harvester ships, weapons blazing with an intensity that caused the Xilorian observation screens to automatically dim. The harvesters, programmed to methodically dismantle conventional resistance, suddenly faced an enemy that showed no concern for its own survival, followed no predictable patterns, and displayed no hesitation in delivering devastating strikes. "This is impossible," whispered Zarin as they watched the battle unfold. The harvester vessels outnumbered and theoretically outgunned the human fleet by orders of magnitude, yet the humans were inflicting serious damage. "Ambassador," called a communications officer. We're receiving a direct transmission from what appears to be the human flagship. The holographic display shifted, revealing the human. The being was unlike anything in Silurian experience, bipedal with only 2 arms and a face dominated by forward-facing eyes. It wore a dark uniform adorned with symbols presumed to denote rank or accomplishment. "This is Admiral Elena Zhao of the United Earth Defense Force," the human said without preamble. "We've engaged the hostile forces in your system. Begin immediate evacuation of your civilian population to the coordinates being transmitted. We'll cover your retreat." Talon struggled to find words. "Admiral, we are grateful beyond expression, but we have nowhere to retreat to. The harvesters have destroyed our colony worlds and blocked all escape routes." The human's expression remained composed, but something flickered in those alien eyes. Determination, perhaps, or resolve. "This is impossible," whispered Zarin as they watched the battle unfold. The harvester vessels outnumbered and theoretically outgunned the human fleet by orders of magnitude, yet the humans were inflicting serious damage. "Ambassador," called a communications officer, "we're receiving a direct transmission from what appears to be the human flagship." The holographic display shifted, revealing the human. The being was unlike anything in Silurian experience, bipedal with only 2 arms and a face dominated by forward-facing eyes. It wore a dark uniform adorned with symbols presumed to denote rank or accomplishment. "This is Admiral Elena Zhao of the United Earth Defense Force," the human said without preamble. "We've engaged the hostile forces in your system. Begin immediate evacuation of your civilian population to the coordinates being transmitted. We'll cover your retreat." Talon struggled to find words. "Admiral, we are grateful beyond expression, but we have nowhere to retreat to. The harvesters have destroyed our colony worlds and blocked all escape routes." The human's expression remained composed, but something flickered in those alien eyes. Determination, perhaps, or resolve. "Understood. Secondary plan engage. Prepare to receive boarding teams on your surface. We're extracting your people directly. Coordinate with UEDF Ground Commander Park when she arrives." The transmission ended abruptly as the Admiral returned to directing the battle. Within hours, human landing craft were descending through Sealer Prime's atmosphere. The soldiers that emerged were clad in powered armor that made them appear more machine than organic, an irony not lost on the Silurians as they watched these humans who superficially resembled the Void Harvesters more than they resembled the graceful Silurians themselves. Commander Park, a compact human with features suggesting ancestry from Earth's eastern regions, met with the Council directly. Unlike Admiral Zhao, her demeanor was diplomatic, though her words remained direct. "High Consul Verana," she said with a respectful inclination of her head, "we've secured temporary orbital supremacy, but reinforcements from both sides are inbound. We need to evacuate your population immediately." "To where?" Verana asked, the question that had been asked repeatedly over the past days. "Earth," Park replied simply, "and human colony worlds. We've prepared refugee centers. It's not permanent, but it's safe." The audacity of the offer stunned the Silurian leadership. Not only had these humans, unknown to the Galactic Concord, developed wormhole technology that the Concord had deemed theoretically impossible, they were now offering sanctuary to billions of Silurians, a species they had never officially met before today. "Why?" Verana finally asked. "Why would you risk yourselves for us?" Park's expression softened slightly. "Because you asked for help," she said, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. "And because we've been watching the harvesters for some time. You're not the first civilization they've attacked, but if we have anything to say about it, you'll be the last they destroy." As she spoke, more human ships continued to emerge from the wormhole, and the battle above Sealer Prime intensified. The evacuation of a civilization had begun. Humanity unleashed. The sky above Sealer Prime burned with alien warfare. For the first time in living memory, the serene atmosphere was scared with plasma contrails and the brief, brilliant flashes of ships dying in orbit. In the 3 days since the humans' arrival, the battle had not ceased for a moment. From the emergency command center beneath the capital city of Lumina, High Consul Verana watched the evacuation unfold with a mixture of gratitude and astonishment. The humans worked with an efficiency that bordered on manic, their procedures refined through what must have been extensive experience with disaster scenarios. 2 million citizens transported in the last rotation, reported Talon, studying the logistics displays. The humans' portable wormhole generators allow for direct evacuation to their colony worlds. At current rates, we can evacuate another 30% of the population before the harvester reinforcements arrive. And the rest? Verana asked quietly. Commander Park, who had not left the Xylorian leadership side since her arrival, answered directly. The rest will depend on whether our defense holds. Admiral Zhao is implementing Phase 2 of our counteroffensive. We need to buy more time. What is Phase 2? Counselor Ixera inquired. Instead of answering, Park activated her communication device. Show them, she said simply. The holographic display shifted to an orbital view, where dozens of smaller human craft began to detach from their larger vessels. Unlike the warships, these moved erratically, almost chaotically. Strike fighters, Park explained. Piloted by humans, not automated systems. You send your people to certain death. Zarin was aghast. Those small craft cannot possibly survive against the harvesters. Watch, Park said. The fighters approached the nearest harvester vessels, which responded predictably, extending their energy-draining fields, the same fields that had neutralized Xylorian defenses. But instead of avoiding these fields, the human fighters accelerated directly into them. They're sacrificing themselves, whispered Verana in horror. No, Park replied with the hint of a smile. They're delivering packages. As the fighters entered the energy fields, they each released multiple objects before breaking away at impossible angles, their engines flaring with overridden safety protocols. The released objects, simple missiles by appearance, drifted unpowered into the harvester's hulls. Nothing happened for several seconds. Then, without warning or visible energy signature, massive sections of 3 harvester ships simply ceased to exist, leaving jagged, gaping holes. The ships listed, their symmetry broken, their coordinated movements faltering. What manner of weapon is this? Talon demanded, his skin flashing patterns of confusion and alarm. We call them NEMBS charges, negative mass exotic matter. They create localized areas where the laws of physics temporarily reconsider their position, Park explained. The harvester's energy fields don't stop them because there's no energy to drain. They're completely passive until activation. This technology, Ixera breathed. It violates fundamental principles of physics as currently understood. Yes, Park finished for her. Humanity has a long tradition of telling fundamental principles to take a walk when necessary. Before the conversation could continue, Admiral Zhao's voice came through Park's communicator. Harvester reinforcements have breached the heliobase. Estimated arrival time: 6 hours. Our second wave is through the wormhole, but we'll still be outnumbered 5-1. Understood, Admiral, Park replied. We're accelerating evacuation. When the communication ended, Park turned to the Xylorian Council with newfound urgency. We need to discuss our final option, the one we were hoping to avoid. Which is? Verana asked. We fight alongside you, Park said. Not just an evacuation, but a joint defense of your homeworld. We've been observing how the harvesters operate. They're coordinated, too coordinated. We believe they function as a hive mind with distributed processing across their vessels. If we can identify and neutralize enough command nodes simultaneously, we might be able to disrupt their entire operational pattern. How would we even identify these command nodes? Zarin asked skeptically. That's where we need your help, Park said. Your sensors operate on different principles than ours. Your scientists understand quantum entanglement at a level we haven't achieved. Together, we might be able to locate their communication pathways. Ixera stepped forward. If the harvesters use quantum entanglement for instantaneous communication, our harmonic resonance scanners might detect the signal patterns, she offered. Exactly, Park nodded. While we continue the evacuation, we need your best scientists working with our tactical team. We have 6 hours to find a way to give the harvesters a really bad headache. The next 6 hours were a flurry of activity unlike anything in Silurian history. Human soldiers and Silurian scientists worked side by side, two species separated by vast evolutionary differences, yet united by a common threat. The humans' approach to problem-solving fascinated the Silurians, where the aliens relied on elegant theoretical models and careful consensus. The humans threw ideas against the wall with reckless abandon, discarding failures without sentiment and building on successes with manic energy. They think differently, Ixera observed to Virana as they watched a human engineer gleefully dismantle a Silurian quantum scanner to integrate it with human targeting systems. Not more advanced, not more primitive, just fundamentally different. Do you believe this plan can succeed? Virana asked quietly. I do not know, Ixera admitted, but I find myself hoping. That is not something I expected to feel again. When the harvester reinforcements arrived, they came in overwhelming numbers, over 300 vessels of varying configurations, all bearing down on Silur Prime with the cold, mechanical determination that had already consumed 5 Silurian colony worlds. The human fleet, now comprising just over 100 warships, formed a defensive perimeter around the planet. Behind them, the evacuation continued through multiple wormhole apertures, each one a precious lifeline, shuttling thousands of Silurians to safety every hour. Harvester fleet is separating into attack formations, reported a human tactical officer in the command center. They're adapting to our earlier tactics. As expected, Admiral Zhao replied from orbit. Her holographic image stood resolute in the center of the command center. Is the package ready? Final calibrations complete, confirmed a Silurian scientist. The harmonic disruptors are synchronized with the quantum signature we identified. If our theory is correct, this should temporarily sever the connection between their command nodes and the rest of their fleet. And if it doesn't? Zhao asked bluntly. Then we have given 8 billion of our people time to escape, Virana answered with equal directness. That is more than we had before your arrival, Admiral. Zhao nodded, a gesture that Silurians had quickly learned indicated respect. Commander Park, begin final evacuation protocols for the command center personnel. With respect, Admiral, Virana interrupted, the Council will remain until the last of our citizens are evacuated. A brief silence followed. Then Zhou's lips curved slightly upward. Understood, High Consul. We stand together then. Her attention shifted. All ships, execute battle plan Thermopylae. Targeting data is being transmitted from the surface. Strike on my mark. The battle that followed would be etched into the memory of every witness. The human fleet engaged the harvesters with a ferocity that even their earlier fighting hadn't prepared the Silurians for. Ships deliberately took devastating hits to position themselves for killing blows. Fighters performed maneuvers that strained the limits of their construction. And everywhere, the humans demonstrated a talent for coordinated chaos that the algorithmic precision of the harvesters couldn't predict. 23 human vessels were destroyed in the first wave alone. But they had positioned themselves exactly as needed, creating a precise geometric pattern around key harvester command ships identified by the joint Silurian-human analysis. Now, Zhao commanded. 87 EMES charges detonated simultaneously across the harvester fleet, each one precisely targeted at a suspected command node. For an eternal moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, like puppets with severed strings, over half the harvester vessels suddenly drifted out of formation. Some collided with each other. Others stopped moving entirely. It worked, breathed Talon, his skin brightening with hope for the first time in weeks. Partial success, Park corrected, studying the tactical displays. We've disrupted approximately 60% of their fleet. The remaining 40 is still operational and adapting. Then we finish this, Zhao declared. All functional ships target the remaining active vessels. Engineering teams prepare second-wave disruptors based on the new data. What followed was not a battle but a systematic dismantling. The human fleet, though reduced by a third, fell upon the remaining active harvesters with methodical precision. Without their full network to coordinate responses, the harvesters couldn't maintain their earlier superiority. One by one, they were isolated and destroyed. 3 hours later, Admiral Zhao stood physically in the Silurian command center, her uniform showing evidence of the battle she had just survived. Behind her stood a delegation of human officers, each bearing the marks of combat in some form. High Consul, Zhao addressed Varana formally. I'm pleased to report that Sailor Prime is secure. The remaining harvester vessels have been neutralized or driven from the system. Our scientists believe the disruption of their command structure was significant enough that they will not return in the immediate future. Admiral, Varana responded, her voice thick with emotion, her skin glowing with patterns of profound gratitude. There are no words in any language to express what your people have done for ours. You came without hesitation, fought without reservation, and sacrificed without complaint. The Exilorian people will remember this as long as our civilization endures. We responded as any decent sentient species should, Zhou said simply. But our work isn't finished. The harvesters will regroup eventually. They've attacked other civilizations before yours, and they'll try again. Other civilizations? Ixura questioned. You knew of them before our message. We've been monitoring unusual activity in this sector for almost a decade, Park explained. Earth may be relatively isolated, but we're curious. We've had long-range probes and listening posts scattered throughout nearby space. We detected the fall of the Trizali 3 years ago, and the Mektar before them. By the time we understood what was happening, it was too late to help them. But you helped us, Talon observed. We were ready this time, Zhou said. Your message came just as we were completing our rapid response fleet. In truth, you provided us the opportunity we had been preparing for. What happens now? Varana asked, looking around at the mixed gathering of humans and Silurians, two species who had been strangers days ago and were now bound by shared battle. Now, said Admiral Zhao, we rebuild and prepare. The Exilorian refugees on Earth and our colonies will be safe while your homeworld recovers. Meanwhile, I suggest a formal alliance between our peoples. There's much we can learn from each other. And what of the Galactic Concord? Zarin asked bitterly. They abandoned us in our hour of need. Perhaps they need a reminder of what alliance truly means, Park suggested with a hint of steel in her voice. The existence of humanity and our technology will come as quite a surprise to them. A problem for another day, Varana said firmly. Today, we honor those lost and celebrate those saved. She extended her four-fingered hand in what she had learned was a human gesture of agreement. On behalf of the Silurian confluence, I accept your proposal of alliance, Admiral Zhao. As Zhao clasped Varana's hand, a new chapter in galactic history began. One where humanity's unexpected appearance on the cosmic stage would change everything. The species that had been deemed too primitive, too violent, too unpredictable to join the Concord had just demonstrated that sometimes those very qualities were exactly what the universe needed. And across the stars, other civilizations would soon learn what the Silurians now knew. When destruction seems inevitable and hope is all but lost, humanity's answer to a desperate call might just be a fleet of warships and the unshakable belief that no one should face the darkness alone.